Welcome to the Callis Mindset, the show where discipline meets growth and high performance thinking becomes a way of life. I'm your host, Callis. Each episode will bring an elite entrepreneur, top real estate professionals, or leaders who refuse to settle for average. If you're ready to think sharper, lead stronger, and build the mindset that separates the committed from the comfortable, you're in the right place. Today's high-performance expert knows real estate inside and out. Tim Smith from LPT Realty. Tim grew up in Nampa, where he moved when he was 10 years old, and he watched the Treasure Valley explode from open fields and farms to one of the fastest growing areas in our state. Real estate is something he's been around for most of his life. He started at 18 working with his dad in brokerage in Park City, and he moved from property management into sales and eventually built his own brand and has set himself apart as a top agent here in Idaho. What sets Tim apart isn't just the knowledge of the local market, but it's the way he shows up every day. Consistent, authentic, and a strong social media presence that converts from connecting with people. Today, we'll discuss his experience, what it was like in Nampa growing up, the lessons he learned along the way, and how he leverages social media to convert leads by building trust and staying relevant. Tim, thanks so much for being on today.
Thanks for having me.
Before we dive into your career, what does the word mindset mean to you?
You know, I think of controlling the thoughts, that go through your mind, the temptations, having the discipline to know what to say yes to, what to say no to, taking action, and having just a mindset that's oriented towards action. That's kind of what I think of it as. But yeah, it means a lot of different things. I think the pillar for me though is just action and having that mindset of moving forward in progress versus overanalyzing something or getting stuck based on fear or something like that. That's probably what I would say.
Yeah, so forward-facing action and the mindset behind that to continue and not get stuck in the uncontrollables, if you will.
But yeah,
Well, cool. Thanks for sharing. How did that form? How did you come with that opinion? Was it when you were younger that you came with that, or was it recently?
I've always kind of had that mindset. I've always been sort of fearless when it comes to uh, pretty much everything. I'm always willing to try something to find out if it works or not versus overanalyzing it. I feel like the best teacher is to just go ahead and start doing it and learn as you go. So something I think I was born with it. My dad, he's an entrepreneur. He's kind of that way too. He took big risks early on in his life. He started a restaurant back in 1988, and it turned out to be super successful. And obviously, I had him to look up to. And he was kind of a mentor for me. But yeah, I just kind of took that with me, and I've applied it to all aspects of my life. I think that just moving forward, taking risks, trying things out, even though you don't know what you're doing. I mean, it relates to pretty much everything in real estate. I remember, my first real estate deal, I was a little bit scared, right? Because I don't know what I was doing. But I had to kind of put on that face like I knew what I was doing and have the confidence to go forward with it. Otherwise, my clients were gonna see that. They're gonna see that fear in me, and they won't. People want confidence when you're working with them, and so I think that that's what I was able to do. Is just move forward without being fearful of what the result was, even though I didn't know the answers to all the questions. Do it anyways. Same with social media. It's scary putting yourself out there. Doing podcasts, it's scary. You're putting yourself out there, but by doing it, you kind of learn as you go, and then you gain that confidence through the actions. So
Definitely. Yeah, that's been a big part of my life is learning by doing
yeah,
and really just failing forward.
yep,
Trying things, and when you hit a roadblock, you have to come up with an answer, a solution to get you through that obstacle. And so it kind of ties into sales as well, because you're going to hit a lot of no's in life. You're going to hit a lot of not right nows in life, and you have to be able to have the poise to keep pushing through with that right mindset to have those breakthroughs. So thanks for sharing that feedback. Walk us through your path from Park City, relocating to Nampa, and your basically your life path, because you moved here when you were a kid, all the way to the point of being a top agent in Idaho. How did you get there from your original relocation here, being the new kid?
Yeah, so I relocated here when I was 10 years old. So Idaho is pretty much all I know, honestly. Grew up here. Spent the first 10 years in Utah. That's where my dad lives. He lives in Park City. That's where he has his brokerage. And then I ended up going back to Park City when I was 18, right out of high school. Got my real estate license immediately. That was the plan, was to get my license and follow after my dad's footsteps. A little young, obviously, 19 years old, a little immature, wasn't quite ready for everything that entailed. So I kind of struggled with that for a little bit. I ended up working in his office and doing a little bit of property management, uh, working with his files, just trying to get a little bit of experience. And that kind of fizzled out. Again, just young, immature, not really sure what I'm doing, not super motivated at that time. Switched jobs, moved back to Idaho, did some odd jobs, installing satellite dishes and doing random things like that. Then moved back to Park City, started managing his restaurant. So he owns a restaurant in Park City as well. So started doing that for quite a while. And then eventually, we just felt the call back to Idaho. I think I was probably 26 and came back to Idaho again. I left what I thought was my career behind. The plan was to take over his restaurant in the future, be the general manager of his restaurant. That didn't really fulfill me. I don't really like the restaurant business. It's super stressful, high pressure, managing a lot of different people. It just didn't fit what I wanted to do with my life. So decided to take the jump, move back to Idaho. My wife's family and everyone was up here. Moved back to Idaho, and I went to CWI. I did not know what I was going to do there, but in the same mindset of just move forward, right? Like do something that's progressing. So I went to college for about a year. Again, didn't know I was going to major in. I was going for business, I guess. Seemed like a natural fit. And then I ended up running into an old high school friend, Garrett Pancarry, at my wife's salon. He was getting his hair done, and he was telling me about the brokerage that he was at, and said, "Oh, I know you got your license when you were 19 years old, or you started doing real estate in Park City." And I was like, "Yeah, didn't really do much with it. Not really sure what to do. Don't know how to get clients." And he's like, "Oh, I mean, we can get you clients. We'll just send you leads." And I was like, "This is like a new thing for me. I had no idea that even existed. They just send you Zillow leads or Facebook leads. They generate leads." So I didn't hear that concept. My dad didn't have like a built out brokerage and system like that. It was more just like for his own personal transactions, and he had a bunch of solo agents on his team. So didn't have a ton of direction with that when I was in Park City. So anyways, he told me that. I was like, all right, cool. I'll go test out. Got my license in Idaho. This was back in 2016, and jumped on his team, started taking leads. Again, figuring it out as I'm going. He sends me a lead. I cold call him, say, "Hey, looks like you're interested in this property. Can I show it to you?" Working through all that kind of stuff. And then I realized as I got started that it's that simple, right? Like you pick up the phone, you call the prospect, you try to get in front of them, and you just keep doing that over and over again. So I was like, okay, it's like a light bulb went off in my head, and I dropped out of college. And I was like, I'm going to just do this full time. I'm going to go all in on it, because my mind is like, all right, if I can make 50 or 60 phone calls a day, that's going to equal this amount of prospects, right? And I would start doing the math, right? Every day I would literally sit at my desk from 9 to 5, and I would make calls. And the reason I got kind of obsessed with it is I was also learning as I was going. Like, people would ask me questions that I'd never been asked. I'd get on Google, or I'd call my broker or call my dad and figure all this stuff out. So I'm learning as I'm going, which is what I wanted to do. And that motivated me to keep going, right? And so, anyways, fast forward, first year, 2016, I sold 8 houses. I was starting to gain some confidence because it was working, right? All this work was actually, starting to result in commissions. And then I had a ton of momentum going into 2017. And then that year I ended up selling 47 homes. This
Wow.
was Yeah, this is before a transaction coordinator, before systems. I was just grinding away on the phone. We had like a little bit of a competitive environment in the brokerage with me and another agent, David Jennings. We had it on a leaderboard, like keeping track of our stats. How many homes have you sold? What's your sales volume? All this sort of stuff. So did that, sold 47 homes. By the time I got through that, it's like, holy cow, like I'm a professional at this point, right? Like, the confidence was there because I had been through 50 plus transactions. And I'm just like, man, this is perfect. This is exactly what I want to do with the rest of my life. And yeah, that's kind of that's what led me to where I am now. Um, Definitely, ups and downs throughout the years since 2017. Uh,
Mhm.
yeah, now obviously on an upward trajectory, which is pretty cool.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. I want to discuss a little bit more about that path because the way you explained it makes it seem like it was so easy, and I know it wasn't. It's so let's talk about some of the, I know the high points, year two, you sell almost 50 houses that year alone. That's incredible. Significantly higher than most transactions that most agents do in their entire career, which is actually short-lived because the average agent doesn't really stay in for the long haul. And so what were some of the low points? Uh, First, let's start with the high points because it sounded like you started off in the grind and then it just broke through the second year. And then along the way, were there any low points where you were like, I don't know if I should do this anymore, or something's got to change?
The low point would be just burning out and making calls all day long and just hating my life doing that. So I definitely felt the burnout after 2017. And then I took my foot off the gas and I still prospected a little bit in 2018, but kind of fizzled out. And I started, I was getting a lot of referrals at that point. So I started, I was just comfortable, I guess, at that point. And that it kind of fed me from 2018, 2019, 2020. And then obviously 2020, the whole market picked up and business was crazy. Um, that was my burnout, but and that's why you would see like a dip in my sales production from 28. It kind of went down, 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 down. Still decent, and then 2023 I think is where I hit my lowest point. But honestly, it was just the grinding that burned me out, and the cold calling all day long. The thing with me though is that, and the reason I love doing real estate is that I actually love doing real estate. Like I love the numbers, I love the process. I like truly enjoy my job, and I think that might be something that sets me apart from a lot of agents because some people just dread the whole process. They don't like showing homes, or they don't like doing the transactions. They don't like the complications that you run into. And I actually love it. Like it's not, I've always thought like, I feel sort of blessed in a way to call this a job. Like, oh, I got to go show $1 million homes. Oh my gosh. It's so, you know what I mean? But like, it's always I always see it as an opportunity, and I'm grateful for it versus I think, and I don't know any specific ages, but it's just like, I know some people might see that as like, oh, this sucks. I got to go waste my Sunday away doing this. And I think that's where my mindset's a little different is I actually just appreciate my job and I love doing it, which I think helps me excel at the end of the day.
Definitely. Yeah, it converts in the way that you conduct every single day, the way you're behaving, your communication, and the results. They speak for themselves. And I've been in a similar scenario. I've been in real estate out since I was almost 18 and property management. And then I got recruited into tech sales for really the last 10 years. And I kept my real estate license most of that time. But um, I got burnt out in tech sales, and I was virtual remote working before COVID ever happened. And so having 4 years of that before COVID even, and then everything's that way, I was already used to it, but it didn't feel as meaningful and as impactful to me to just have conversations like this every day, or on the cell phone, to take transact it was very transactional.
Yeah.
I could close 5 6 7 deals in a day and make great money, but I will never talk to these people again,
Yeah.
and they're not even in the same city as me or state as me. And so I had a few clients here locally. They were real estate investors, and I sold real estate tech. But when it came down to it, when I went all in real estate here in person, I realized that building the community, the network, the place that you live is a lot more impactful and motivational to me than a paycheck would be. And when you're motivated by the right things, the paycheck usually just is a result of that. It's a side effect. And
Yeah.
so I think I have a similar story where making 50 to 100, even 150 calls a day, just cold calling, training teams of people to do that is something I did, which really helped a lot. But did you have systems, or what point did you bring in systems and team to help you with a lot of that grind to relieve you and kind of delegate and elevate?
Yeah, I mean, I did not have systems, unfortunately, which is part of why I felt the burnout. I had a CRM, I had my own system of follow up and prospecting and the follow up schedule. And that's probably what burned me out is eventually you're motivated for the first year and it's all great and the results are coming in, but it gets really mundane and not very fulfilling. So that's why I took my foot off the gas, and that's why my sales production kind of dipped for a while. I recently just hired an assistant in July of this year, and this is like a whole new journey for me. And now I'm finally delegating. I mean, I started delegating about probably the beginning of 2025, is because that's when my career started taking off again with the whole social media and everything. Got a transaction coordinator to relieve me. I don't know why, but I have a bit of a controlling personality, as in like I don't like to let go of the control. I like to, I don't know, I'm hesitant to let go of certain things because I feel like it's on me done a certain way, and I think that was a limiting thing. Finally let go of that. That's been huge, having a TC, and then bringing on my brother-in-law Kyler. Now he's doing all of my CRM. He's prospecting. I'm teaching how to prospect. I became
Mhm.
pretty good at training for that, and now I'm able to focus on the relationships and networking, building the brand, and just building a bigger overall business at this point.
Yeah, that's a huge level up. And I want to ask a little bit more about that. When was it that you decided to, and what made it, what was the defining factor that made you decide to bring on a TC and to hire an assistant? Because I know you'd been doing this for quite some time before that.
Um, so it was just being busy, and I started feeling the same feelings that I had back in 2017 when I burned myself out from doing phone calls. But as you know, my social media kind of started taking off in the beginning of this year, um, and it was taking off so fast that I couldn't keep up with it. As in, you know, DMs and messages, and like, if I was busy actively selling real estate and helping people write offers and show houses, and that was taking up my whole day. But then I'd get home at night and I'd have to respond to all these DMs, and then leads were starting to fall through the cracks, and that stressed me out really bad because we know how valuable it is to have leads, hot
Mhm.
leads, ones that are just. I was feeling the burnout probably. I want to say like June of this year, no, probably May. I was starting to feel serious burnout. I
Yeah.
was making, doing pretty well and selling a lot of houses, but I didn't want to screw this up. uh, and so I had actively started thinking about, who am I going to hire. And honestly, just out of nowhere, my brother-in-law was like, hey, I'm switching out, or I'm thinking about switching careers. He'd been working in American construction for 8 years, and we got to talking, and I was like, yeah, man, I could use an assistant. And he's like the perfect personality type. And that was the thing that stressed me out the most too, is again, like trying to hire the right person. Um, but it was just kind of perfect timing. He wanted to make a change. I was open to a change. We talked it through. I brought him on, and it's been amazing.
Yeah, I've seen all the action. I've seen him on your social. It sounds like you guys are a really good partnership. And what kind of personality were you looking for when you were thinking about adding a team member or an assistant of some sort?
You know, someone that is driven, for one, someone that wants to work, um, someone with ambition for sure, uh, a really good learner. It's a hard question because I remember struggling with deciding like who to hire. Like I even talked about, should it be a male or a female? There was like these questions in my head of like, how does, because I've never been in a leadership role before. I've always just been solo agent, do my own thing, stay in my own lane. And this was like new territory for me. So I think just someone that would be willing to listen to me, and someone that I felt comfortable with, to where I could essentially tell them what to do and direct them. And that's the hard part about all this. And so I'm learning still as I go. I'm trying to become a better leader. But he's kind of the perfect fit for me. I've known him forever. He's 28, and it's my wife's brother. And I've always had a really fun relationship with him. He's super funny. Um, he kind of brings out like a goofy side of me, which I really like. And he's just down for everything. So like he was that perfect combination of willing to do whatever it takes to become successful, and super interested in learning everything there is to know about it. And so you kind of fit every part of that.
Yeah, that's a really good blessing to have, is, someone that you've known for a long time, you trust them, you understand their communication style, and that also has that drive to show up, be disciplined, to keep showing up, every day. And so that's a really big thing, I think, is recruiting the right type of people. And that's something I'm a little bit obsessive over. Um, I have a property management company. I have a newer real estate agency. And as I build this, I'm looking for specific types of people that supplement and complement in different ways. It's I know my strengths, I know my weaknesses, I know what I'm good at and what I'm terrible at, and I need someone to fill those gaps of things that maybe I'm not good at, but I also need to be able to trust them to do the job the way that I would, because I'm a little bit controlling as well. When your reputation is everything in real estate, and we're in a community that talks and word spreads fast, you really have to come across like sharp. You have to be polished. You can't have even a teammate or a team member that you're partnered with. That's an extension of you. And so if they're not holding themselves to the standard that you are, people will pick up on it pretty quick. And I know in property management, most companies don't have good reviews because they want to talk when things are not going well. But if you can continue to perform and communicate effectively and hire people that they champion that same spirit, that same attitude, I think that's when things really, they don't start just adding up, they start multiplying. And so, going from an independent individual contributor, killing it, hitting records, yourself, to reframing the mindset that it takes to trust and recruit and delegate and bring those types of people is gonna multiply your business. And I think you'll see more of that. I've watched you for a couple of years now, and it's been fun. Your social media is awesome. It's engaging. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But before we get to that, I want to ask you about the market here. You've seen it change over 20 plus years. Clearly, we're in a massive growth state. We have been for several years. I've been coming out here almost 10 years now since I first met my wife. She's from here, and moved here about 3 years ago. So I've seen it hands on full time the last 3 years, but everywhere around me was it was a cornfield. It was truly, I could look, and now there's houses everywhere. I can't even see any farms from here unless I use my drone and go up.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the evolution of the market here and the direction you see it going.
Yeah, it's completely different than when I moved here when I was 10 years old. I moved to Nampa, and it was, like you said, farms, cornfields. There wasn't even a Walmart in Nampa at that time. I mean, there's nothing. Um, so yeah, it's completely blown up. In fact, I didn't really start taking note of it until 2020, and that's when everything really exploded. I mean, like I said, I got my license in 2016, and I was kind of just getting into business and learning about it, but I wasn't like super locked into what's going on and what the growth was. But I think that's been the catalyst, was 2020 COVID and everyone moving here from the West Coast over to here, and it's just skyrocketed since then. Um, but in terms of where I see it going, I just don't see it stopping at
Yeah.
any time. I personally think that this area is going to keep exploding. I mean, you probably heard some of the analysts have projected that the median price in Boise is going to end up being in the $1 million range, which is hard to wrap your brain around. But
Yeah. Yeah. I heard that from the number one real estate agent in the entire state. Yesterday, I saw his video, and he is projecting Eagle, Boise, Meridian, the whole area is going to continue to go up. And I questioned it at first, but when I moved here, things were already a bit more pricey than where I'm from in Texas. And they've only continued up, and the demand is so high. And the persona that's moving here has more money than the legacy Idahoan.
yeah,
It's they're bringing a lot of money and business here as well. It's kind of impressive to watch, just like it's like we're watching it happen.
yeah. And I have a different perspective with social media. It's changed my perspective because I target that audience, obviously, like with my reels. I'm, you know, talking to Californians, talking to Oregon people in Washington, and they're a lot of it's politically motivated with what's going on in their states. That's been a huge thing, and that's going to be a huge reason why it's going to continue to go this way. People are going to keep moving over here. And I'm also seeing, like, we know Tennessee's been on the map, Florida's been on the map, Texas has been on the map for all this growth. Now I think Idaho's kind of the next big spot. I look at all the builders that have shown up over the last few years: KB Homes, Lennar.
The brothers, yeah.
Yeah, they're just these developers are exploding right now in the valley, and that's another obvious sign. I talk to a lot of different developers that are, coming from Colorado, from other states. There's a lot of interest in development out here, is what I'm seeing. And so to me, it's like, yeah, this isn't slowing down anytime soon. Whether you like it or not, this value's gonna keep growing. I mean, I've seen city plans of expanding Robinson Road. You got the Emmett Highway. There's so
Mhm.
many in the works. They can't keep up with it. And
Right.
so, pretty clear to me that Idaho, the home values are going to keep going up because the demand is there. It's there from Californians, from people moving out of that state over here, and it's there from developers and builders. So
Yeah. Yeah. I do agree with that. And I look at the surrounding states in the Pacific Northwest, all the way up from Washington, Montana, surrounding us, Utah, California, Arizona, which I don't really consider Pacific Northwest, but the surrounding states are all priced at a higher price point for their home sales, and their market is just, it's up here. So when the perception is that Idaho is like the last frontier that you can still afford a home and get something in a great place that isn't, it's not Salt Lake City size, it's not Seattle size, it's nowhere near most of the cities in California size. And because of that, it's a huge opportunity. And with remote work, I've actually met several people that are working still in California, but they're living here. Even police and fire chiefs. It's like, what?
that's
So when you're getting that paycheck, or you had worked your career in California and you earned and you invested in real estate out there, and you sell a home for cash and it's worth somewhere between 3 and 5 houses here, even at the price point we're at today, it's a no-brainer. It's going to happen. And like what you mentioned, the political motivation is still there, and California is an amazing place. I love to visit there, but I personally wouldn't live there. And we can get into that on a whole separate episode, but no need for now. But with that comes price increases, right? Like, we've seen the market increase even since I've moved here. It's gone up quite a bit, which is still down from COVID highs. And so we're about to pass that, I think, in most of these markets, or we're at least getting close to where it was at an all-time high. Next year, I think that's when we'll hit it.
yeah,
That's just my guess.
yeah,
Most people here that are from Idaho, about 40% that are left, a lot of them are very, very successful in their business because they built it here. And, with the growth of population, they rode that wave up. But the ones that didn't, I see them complaining a lot about, don't come here, like, don't come here. I even had someone try to discriminate when they said, will you sell my house, but not to a Californian? And I told them, no, I can't do that. And so it's like there's a stigma against California here that it was in Texas too, because we had about 100,000 Californians a year moving to Texas. Here it's about 30,000 a year, but we're less than 10% of the size of Texas. So it's just a little bit different. What do you think that that's going to continue, or will it level out eventually to where there's just so many Californians here that that's kind of normal?
that's a good question. I don't know. I know exactly what you're talking about. I see it in the comments constantly. I learned to just shut that off and not even read it because it doesn't matter. You can get in fights all day long with them. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of my opinion is that a lot of them missed an opportunity. Because locals are selling their homes to these
Hmm.
Californians.
Yeah.
So it's like they're obviously not that worried about everyone moving here. They're profiting off of this, right? To me, it seems like sort of a victim mindset of like, I did not get into the market, and unfortunately, I'm getting priced out of the market now. And I've seen the angle of my kids are never going to be able to afford a home. I mean, I'm in that situation. I have two teenagers, and
Yeah.
I've talked to them about this. It's going to be very difficult. It's not something that I'm pissed off about. I'm not complaining about it because I just don't want to teach my kids that mindset of, well, you know, figure it out at the end
Yeah.
of
It's
the day.
their fault. It's not.
Fault, it's a collective fault, right? Like government policies that are causing all this to happen, bad government policies or whatever, causing everyone to move here. Planning and zoning and developers causing prices to go up. The sellers that are selling to the Californians, it's not all the Californians' fault or all the realtors' fault. It's like it's
Yeah.
a add up to this. I guess you call it a problem, and I just don't see it as a problem. I don't know
Yeah.
how. I, as someone who grew up here since I was 10, I think it's kind of cool all the growth going on, and it's not just because I'm a realtor and I'm profiting off of it. It's that it's becoming a cooler state in general,
Yeah.
right? All
It's
coming.
You're right. It's
Full restaurant, way more restaurant. There used to be nothing to do in Idaho.
Yeah, even in the last 3 years since I've been here, it's increased in quality because they're bringing in better restaurants, better entertainment, better infrastructure. New highways coming in. So I'm excited, but I'm from a big city, and I've lived in big cities, and to me, it's not intimidating. It's not overwhelming. I was 16 parallel parking in downtown Dallas, which is also blown up since then. But I think it's just people that, like you said, they miss the boat or they feel like there's no hope now, and it's sad because it's a reality. But the reality is that Idaho was one of the sixth poorest states in the country, and you don't see that now because you have new money that's rolling in, and you see half of all homes being built are considered luxury homes, and who can afford those? Like not not your regular Idahoan and not your regular most Texans.
Exactly. Yeah, it's definitely a tricky problem, but I don't know what you're going to do about it. I don't know what we can do about it other than embrace it. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that. And so when it comes to that mindset, I think it's a scarcity mindset rather than a growth one, and it's almost like a victim mindset. And those are things that I really try hard to avoid because it's like a domino effect. One thing becomes everything that you deal with in life is a problem, and then it's sad. You can get to a really bad place mentally when you're stuck believing that you can't make change in your life or there is no hope in the future. So I pray for people like that, and people that want to move here. I suggest still do it. Even if you don't know how you're going to buy a house in the future, you can rent. There's programs here. There's better property tax options here than where I'm from, and so there are opportunities. But what behaviors do you think separate people that grow in the industry of real estate versus ones that are plateauing, or maybe they get burnt out and they just quit?
I think keeping your foot on the gas is a big one. Just like di- getting through that discomfort, and you have to, as a realtor, it's like you're always trying to throw a bunch of balls up in the air and see where they land. You have to continue to build your pipeline and continue to prospect and get your name out there, building your brand, like thinking of these long-term things that are going to affect you 2, 3 years from now. That's, I think, the biggest thing that you can do that can separate you and keep you, um, make you successful in the long run. It's easy to, as a realtor, you make your own schedule, right? You don't
Mhm.
have your shoulder telling you what to do. So you have to develop discipline to treat it like an actual job and check in at 9 and do, you know, time, whatever you call it, time blocking, where
Yeah.
I ask for a couple hours here and there and there. I think that you have to continue to do that and keep your foot on the gas and push forward to create new opportunities because it's all about networking, as we know, and it's all about building your brand. You
Hmm.
just stop doing that, or else you will start to feel the effects of it. You can't just sit back and wait for your phone to ring. You got to be
Right.
proactive, trying to get business.
That's right. Yeah. Conversations don't have themselves, and neither do houses sell themselves. So I get that. Well, I'm excited about this next topic. You're known as a real estate social media influencer with a growing following. How did that happen? Like, how did you how did you position yourself and your brand to achieve real estate transactions from social media leads?
Wow, it's actually strange to even be talking about it because I was a nobody on Instagram and Facebook about 2 years ago. Um, I had 350 followers, and uh, I came across someone, maybe you know her, Jenna Peterson. Saw her social media exploding. She was talking about getting leads through Instagram, and that immediately prompted something in me. In fact, if you go back a little further, I ended up going to this title company presentation, and they talked about the importance of social media, and I was like, okay, whatever. So that kind of clicked with me. I was like, maybe I should try to do this, right? Instead of avoiding all the time because it felt like another task that was meaningless. So, anyways, I start scrolling, seeing Jenna Peterson. I start seeing Ryan Pina and some of these other influencers that
Yeah.
and they inspired me. And Ryan Pina inspired me because of the tattoos, right? So I'm like, hey, this guy's got a bunch of tattoos and he's killing it. You know what I mean? He's selling real estate, so like,
Yep.
give me a little boost of confidence. Like it doesn't matter, right? And yeah, like there's other people, Denise Ferrari, bunch of different Instagram influencers. So I just went down the rabbit hole, Jimmy Conover, and watching their reels.
Hmm.
Based really like to keep it simple. I took the advice that I was learning from what they were talking about, and I just implemented it, and I started posting stuff. And then I got lucky. Probably a couple months in, I posted something that ended up going viral, and that's what pushed me to keep going with it. I think it got like 1 million views. I didn't get any leads from it. I wasn't set up. This is like learn as you go type of process.
Yeah.
Learning how to even make a reel, and then how do you pick the songs for it, and what kind of videos you do, and all this stuff. And then eventually I got lucky, it went viral. That gave me a ton of confidence and made me super excited about it, obviously. And then yeah, just kept learning and doing it. And I made a commitment to post one reel every single day. And I'm still on that commitment. I still try to post at least one reel a day. It's a grind. It's a lot of work. But and then as I'm going along this process, kind of going back a little bit, I started implementing systems and optimizing my social media to where I created a relocation guide, which became a lead magnet, and other guides that become lead magnets. And that's where it really started to take off as far as converting leads on Instagram into actual sales, is giving them a reason to raise their hand essentially, and they become prospects. And then from there, it's turned into a follow-up system, right? Like they raise their hand, they want your guide, but they also, you need to ask the right follow-up questions. And so that's kind of what I train my assistant to do, is let's keep this thing rolling until we can get them to a point of jumping on a phone call or schedule on a time to meet once they come out here from California, wherever they're coming from. But yeah, that's kind of how the whole social media thing went. It's just being super consistent, sticking with it, and learning as you go. And I'm not fully optimized, I would say, because it takes a long time to get to that point.
I think it's a huge thing to get views, but then when you actually optimize your system to where you have inputs and outputs, right? So if someone says something to you, like they raise their hand, I want to know more about your relocation guide because I'm considering relocating. Well, that's one point of qualification that they just kind of told you. Now you need to dig and get more and keep them interested after they've consumed that content, the lead magnet. And is it a CRM system that does drip campaigns or nurturing campaigns, or how do you ask them those next questions?
So you can use things like mini chat if you wanted to automate it. It's not as organic in my opinion, so I haven't been doing that as far as Instagram leads. So Instagram's totally different from what my pipeline is. On my CRM, I'll have like an email drip system that can be automated, and I have like a full system, all the way out for a year, where it'll automatically type up emails every day. But I'm staying in front of them and sending them email alerts of homes for sale and stuff like that, or
Yep.
market sellers. So I have all that implemented for my pipeline. But for Instagram, it's a little bit more manual labor, as in, after every follow I get, thanks for the follow, what made you want to follow me, type of thing. That's
Yeah.
one I would have done that a long time ago when I was growing, but I just started doing that a few months ago.
Okay.
The follow up question, and I have sort of not really a script, but something I've taught my assistant to follow up with, because there's specific questions you want to ask people to get the right answers, right?
Yep.
But yeah, I have a system for that where it's like, thanks for downloading my relocation guide. May I ask where you're moving from? Something like that, just to get the
Yeah.
conversation. Lead them to I'm thinking about moving here in 6 to 8 months or whatever. Just get the timeline. I take very detailed notes of every conversation, create a task for every conversation to follow up in the next week, 3 weeks, whatever. It's building that system is really important if you want to be successful, because they will just be forgotten if you don't do something.
Yeah.
So that's what I've done.
Yeah. It's clearly working. I think your strategy of staying top of mind by consistently every day you're posting, they're seeing you. If they follow you and they're on social media, they're going to see something new from you. It's
Yeah.
guaranteed because of your approach to that. And then you're hammering them and punching them with value, value, value. Like relocation guide, here's a helpful bit of information that they can do something with. It's not just, hey, here's a coupon to a store or something. Like, I don't know. There's actually an actionable insight that they can use to make a life decision, and that helps because these are heavy decisions when you're moving across the country. It's not easy. We moved from Colorado to Texas, from Texas to Idaho, but the hardest one was from Texas to Idaho. And that was when we already knew, where we were going here. We already had family here. And so a lot of people might not have those resources, and you become their resource. You become their expert and their voice of reason, voice of truth. And then you keep following up with them. And then eventually when the time's right, it happens. You're there, they're thinking of you. They're not thinking of someone else, because this has been an experience, over the last 6 to 12 months, not just, oh, I called the real estate brokerage today and they transferred me to you, like,
I know, like that's one of the things that I really focus on is, when they're moving here from out of state, there's so many questions. Which city is going to fit my lifestyle best? So I
yep,
read that, like, do you need to be by our Trader Joe's? I ask all these questions, trying to provide as much value as I possibly can. I meet with people and show them homes, even if they're 6 months away from buying a house. I'll still show you some homes so you can see what it actually feels and looks like, other than just scrolling on Zillow.
yep,
Proactive properties that might fit. So I really try to dive in deep on what they want and need, and then also explain the difference between Middleton versus Nampa, Caldwell, Meridian, and why you might want to be in Meridian. Because you can kind of get a feel after talking to them for a while which lifestyle would fit best. Because Nampa feels a lot different than being in Meridian. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. That's something I didn't know when I moved here. And it's kind of funny because I ended up in Nampa. I've lived here for almost 3 years now, and I like it. It's definitely better than the last place I lived. There's more to do here. It's a lot less people, and it is growing significantly fast. So, as I mentioned, the crops and farms around me are now subdivisions, and so that brings a lot of people. But at the same time, they've finished the street that used to be a dead end, and now we've got these roundabouts that flow traffic faster than stop signs. We've got upgrades to the airport. There's a lot more coming in here. But when I first moved here and I told people I was moving into Nampa, they almost gave it a weird tone. Like it was almost like it was not disrespected, but just like it was a less than Boise. And they're like, well, why would you move to Nampa? Or like, why would you go way out there? And when I first came here 8 years ago, I could understand that, like, why way out there, because this was a dead end and there was farms. And I'm like, doesn't make sense. But today, I feel like that's maybe changed a bit. I've never felt that way, but being from here, have you seen that same type of mindset about Nampa versus Boise, or Nampa versus other places?
For sure, for sure. Like, everyone wants to be an Eagle Star. Those are the two top, and Meridian, right? And
Mhm.
gets pushed to the side, and Nampa and Caldwell get pushed to the side. But Middleton seems to be a higher up there too, a desirable spot, which that always has confused me. It's a little bit more country, I guess, but it still feels pretty far out there. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's when it's unknown and you're used to being close to everything, and you hear, oh, Nampa's like this outskirt town. It's kind of country. It's not that far though, in reality,
Right,
right?
it's not.
Everything is right around the corner. My Albertsons is just right up the road. Um, unless you're way out in like the country of Nampa, because
Like
Nampa
Melba, like out South Nampa.
was huge. So it's like 20 minutes to get to Costco from all the way South Nampa or something like that. Like it's pretty big. But yeah, I've always been a little confused by that too, because I feel like Nampa's a little underappreciated. Um, at the same time, though, I understand it, because I don't know how you feel about this, but I drive to Meridian constantly.
Yep.
And I live in South Bend, so it takes me 10 to 15 minutes just to get to Garrity to
Oh
the free.
man.
So that commute to there, and then having to get on the freeway, it's not that big of a deal. Again, it's like 25 minutes to get to Meridian. But for other people, they're like, man, that's a little bit too much. I'd rather just be right in the center of it all. And
Yep.
that's pretty much Meridian. So I can understand the draw to Meridian, but you also get way more house for your money in Nampa, which is what drew me to
Yes.
originally. It's starting to creep up there now, but like that's why a lot of people choose Caldwell and Nampa
Yeah,
instead.
that's true.
So
I did a
first,
com- I did a comparison post of what 500K can get you in Boise, what it
mhm,
can get you in Meridian, and then what it can get you in Nampa. And it's a pretty big difference. It's almost like what a million can get you in California versus here. Like the Boise homes are mid-century, they're older, and they need some work and they need some love. But Nampa, you can get brand new construction, and you get a bigger. Some of these subdivisions have bigger yards because they were planned ahead of time, and you get more land. If you want, land, you can move a little bit further west and go out into Caldwell. But it's really filling in. It's Boise. There used to be a gap, and then Meridian, and then a big gap, and then Nampa. Now there's virtually no gap between Boise and West Boise and Meridian. It's all pretty much filled in. And then they're building the north side of Meridian and the south side of Meridian now. And then they're expanding westward, so there's no gaps anywhere. So eventually it will all be one big metro, like the way that I'm used to, where I've lived. But it already felt like that to me. I was already commuting 45 minutes to an hour and a half, before moving here. And then when I moved here and people were complaining about traffic, kind of understood it because the stop signs would get way backed up, or the one highway that we have that goes east and west would be pretty bad during certain hours, which it still is. However, it's not like LA. It's not like some of these bigger cities that people are moving from, so it's all subjective. It's like they're like, this is a blessing, and other people are like, y'all have cursed us by moving here.
I think the internet scares a lot of people too, because there's a lot of feedback on the internet about Caldwell being gangs and crime. Like it's like compared
Yeah.
to this firsthand, it's like it's so there's virtually no crime. It feels like, at least I know if you talk to like I have friends that are local police, and there's
Hmm.
crime for sure. It's
Hmm.
just so much less than in Orange County or in certain areas that people are coming from. That's like you don't even see it or feel it. And Caldwell's safe. Most, there's specific areas you stay out of, obviously, almost any state, right, or city, but for the most part, it's super safe out here.
Yeah, I looked up some stats about property crime, and I'm fairly certain this is still accurate. I believe we're 50th out of 50 for property crime in the state of Idaho, which means, and you can't trust everyone, but like people, when I moved here, they trust their neighbors. They don't lock their doors. That was shocking to me. Like shocking. I've had my car broken into twice in Denver, once in Texas. Like it's never even considered that here. And it's just people sometimes don't realize how good they've had it. Like it's the standard for them, but for the rest of the country, this is like unheard of. Like, it's a
Yeah,
really amazing place to live, and the people are amazing here as well. From for ones I've met, at least, they're all awesome, super friendly. Like I had gas station attendant ask me how my day was the first time I visited out here. And it was the first time that had happened in years.
yeah,
Like normally they're ignoring you, they don't want to talk to you, like, or they don't speak the same language. I mean, at least where I'm from. And so it's just different when the person genuinely sounds authentic and they're like, what have you been up to this week?
yeah.
You care? Like what?
No, it's funny. I hear the same feedback from people that move here. Like you get the mandatory wave from people in Idaho when you're walking up the road or anything like that, or nicer drivers, right? They let you in instead of just cutting you off. I know
Yeah.
there's some these are like priceless things to me that I've started to realize just from hearing the feedback from people moving here. Is they're like, wait, you leave your front door unlocked? Oh, you leave your car unlocked?
Yeah.
I've lived here 28 years. I've never had my house broken into. I've never had any crime whatsoever. And I
Yeah.
would think about it. I'd let your kids go play outside, in the neighborhood.
Yes. Yeah. It's like going back in time to when I was a kid. I was raised in Oklahoma, small town, and we knew everyone. And I would be outside for hours. My parents wouldn't check in on me. They knew that I was with people they trusted. Like there was no, it's like stay inside and you're protected inside vibe. And I feel like today with the newer generations with technology to keep them busy indoors, I think that's kind of the direction it's gone is it's dangerous out there. So stay inside. And it's not really freedom in my opinion. So, all right, Tim, I wanted to ask, because this is part of your brand. Tell me about the ink that you have. You've got more tattoos than most realtors I've ever met.
Yeah.
How has that happened, and how has it affected your relationship with your clients?
Oh, funny. So I got my first tattoo when I was 18. I was in a band back in high school. I've always been really into music, heavy rock music, whatever. And I got my first tattoo a long time ago. I was always worried to get tattoos just for the stigma and not looking professional. I remember my first couple years in real estate, I was super insecure about it and self-conscious, and I would wear my button-up shirts and sleeves fully done. And then I don't know what happened, man. I reached a point where I just didn't feel very authentic, and I wasn't being myself. I was letting it limit me, and I guess I kind of said screw it, like I don't care. It's
Yeah.
I also got a good positive feedback in the first couple of years. Like people saw it and saw that I had some tattoos, and no one really cared. And society's changed a lot over the years, and yeah, so it's always been something I wanted to do, or I wanted sleeves and I wanted the whole thing, like,
Yeah.
everything except for maybe face tattoos, right? We'll see about the neck, probably not. But anyways, yeah, I mentioned earlier, like Ryan Pina, he kind of inspired me a little bit, just seeing his success. And he's got full neck tattoos,
Yeah.
and he's selling luxury real estate, and that really
Yep.
clearly people are looking past it. As long as you are knowledgeable and professional in the way you carry yourself and the way that you do business and communicate, people will trust you.
Yeah.
And I also wanted just to be more authentic to myself, and I felt like I was holding back. I mean, some of that has to do with the way I dress too. It's like I've never been the type to wear full suit, to a meeting or ever really. I did it for the first couple of years because I felt like I had to, and then over time, I just feel more myself when I wear a t-shirt or a sweater, or just normal clothes. Look put together. Obviously, don't look like a bum, but yeah, just being authentic to myself and express myself, and it's honestly resulted in more business in my opinion because I've connected with a lot of people that either appreciate that or have similar interests like music style, or
Yep.
maybe even heard. It's funny because I don't know how this happens, but some people even said that I look approachable. I'm like,
Yeah.
"Really?" I'm like, I would think the opposite, right? Like, because
Right.
my daughter's boyfriends are scared of me, or my his friends they all act like I'm really intimidating. I'm like, I'm a really nice guy, obviously, but yeah, I apparently I look approachable. So I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm not stiff. I don't wear full suit every day. It's
Yeah. Right.
normal
Well,
person.
that's something that I found it kind of stood out because I have a few tattoos too. I don't have as many as I want yet, but I held off for the same reason. I was in healthcare compliance sales for a while, talking with doctors and board of directors that would absolutely, a lot of times they weren't allowed to have that. Today, it's a little different with, nurses having tattoos and other people like that you can pretty much do it. But in real estate, it's about connecting with people and them trusting you and you doing a good job and just being truthful. And it's not necessarily about having tattoos, right? Like it's an older stigma. I've got a tattoo of a key.
Okay?
I got this one 10 years ago, and it just so happened that I started a Callis mindset podcast, and it's a key to the mind. Like that's what it is. It's not just real estate tattoo,
Yeah.
it's a deeper meaning. But I want to get so many more. I've kind of held off, but seeing, you and a few other people like Ryan, people that I've seen do just high volume and people being attracted to the authenticity.
Mhm.
It's it stands out. It's a branding thing for you because even from the way that you dress to your tattoos to your handle, my real estate dude, it's disarming to me. Like for me, I want to be your friend. I want to work with people that I want to be friends with.
Yeah.
And so it's really cool to see that.
That was a big part of it too. I remember I had the light bulb moment with my real estate dude. I was driving down the freeway and I saw a sign that said something about Idaho real estate dude, or not Idaho, Utah real estate dude. And I was like, that's so awesome. And my coworkers all know like that I say dude a lot, right? It's always been part of my vocabulary.
Yeah.
Rack my brain. I'm like, dude, my real estate dude. And I think your real estate dude was taken. That was originally what it was going to be.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been perfect, man.
Okay, well let's go ahead and move on to the very last topic. I wanted to ask if you had one lesson for anyone listening to this in the audience, one lesson that guided your entire career and your entire mindset, what would it be? Is it just keep showing up? Is it don't take life too seriously? Like what would you say?
Um, I think about, I don't remember who quoted this, but maybe it's Warren Buffett or Charlie Munger or something like that. But if you don't do what you love, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. Anyways, do what you
Yeah.
love. Feel like you worked a day in your life or something like that.
Yeah. Yep.
Adopt that. Like I've always thought of real estate, like I was telling you earlier, as a hobby, and it's something fun to do. It's something I get to do. It's not work for me. It's something I truly look forward to doing. Like, what else am I going to do? I don't have any, like, this is truly my hobby, is like building a business. Um, so, I mean, for realtors, obviously, to think about whether this is your passion or not, because I think that's what sets you apart and makes you successful. If you're not passionate and you dread going to work every day, maybe this isn't for you. It's gonna show through in your daily work. So that's the biggest thing, is like loving what you do for a living. And I think just yeah, just being accountable, and having that discipline and really being being I can't think of the word I'm trying to say. Anyway, trying to show up as if no one's watching you, or as if someone is watching you. Like, treat it like a job, and be disciplined about your daily actions. And that is what you need to do in order to ultimately succeed. Otherwise, yeah, you'll just get left behind, honestly.
That's so true. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people, and I've even hired people on sales teams that were just not really, they were not cut for sales. They weren't cut for stepping out of their comfort zone and pushing through to learn by failing. And it showed really quickly. And I think it's the same in agency, property management. There's people that are accidental landlords that probably don't belong there because they're not doing the best job. Or there's people that they got a real estate license thinking it was easy money and that it wasn't going to be a daily grind. But the ones that set themselves apart are the ones that treat it like a job. Like you said, they show up every day. They do this as a business, and they're the owners of that business. They're not just trying to do small transaction volume, friends and family when they need it. And a lot of times those friends and family, they see the effort they're making and they're going to go with someone that's a professional expert. They're not going to risk, their biggest asset, their house or their future livelihood on someone that they think might be incompetent because they just didn't put in the effort, or maybe they're just not as passionate to drive them to have that growth to become the best. So that's a really good lesson to end on today. I wanted to thank our listeners for engaging with our episode today of the Callis Mindset with Callis. If today's conversation with Tim brought you clarity, motivation, or a new understanding, share it with someone. Share it online that would benefit from it. And a huge thank you to Tim Smith for bringing real insight, real experience, and real mindset today. If you want to see more about Tim, you can find him on Instagram, Tim Smith, Idaho Realtor. His handle is at My Real Estate Dude. So My Real Estate Dude, you can find him online. He's with LPT Realty. And if you want more access to additional conversations like this, more tools for building growth in a mindset beyond the scenes that you're seeing today, join the Callis Mindset community on Instagram at Callis Mindset Podcast or YouTube at Callis Mindset. We have a lot more coming, and we're really excited to release these future episodes. Keep leading yourself, keep doing the hard things, and keep building a mindset that sets you apart. I'm Callis, and we'll see you next time.